fellow crafters, and welcome to my channel. My name's Olivia, and this video is a beginner's guide to crochet. Before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 22 and I have a wonderful husband and the absolute cutest dog. We love to go on adventures and explore nature. I've been crocheting since I was 8 years old. I went to an activity that taught me how to crochet a simple washcloth with single crochet stitches. After that, I taught myself how to crochet through YouTube and written explanations. I love this craft because it is just so relaxing and it allows me to make the absolute cutest creations. I actually opened an Etsy shop to turn my passion into a business. It's called Live to Create Creations and I'm always adding new items. I also have custom orders available, so if there's ever anything that you want me to make for you, just let me know and I'll get to it. Alright, now that all the boring stuff is out of the way, let's have some fun and start crocheting. So to get started, you're going to need some yarn, a crochet hook, and some scissors. To get the yarn, you can get it in so many places. The cheapest place you can go is Dollar Tree, and you can get little things of yarn about half this size, and they still work really well. This yarn I really like. It's super soft. It's called I Love This Yarn. I got it at Hobby Lobby. I recommend starting with the size 4 medium yarn. It's also called worsted weight yarn. And then the 5mm crochet hook. Those are just the easiest starting points. It's kind of a mid-size crochet hook and just an easy yarn to handle. So once you have the yarn, I like to just take these off. When it looks like this, it's called a skein. There are other ways that yarn can come in, like cakes and things like that, but I'm going to use a skein today. So when you first get one of these, there's one side that has a little string that just comes out like that, and then that way the yarn will unravel on the outside of the skein. I like to go to the other side. You reach in a little bit, and you find this end. Sometimes you have to kind of dig in there and pull out some sections. If you can't really find it, then you can just use the outside. That's totally fine. This way, it just pulls out like that. It's nice and easy. So there are lots of different ways to hold your crochet hook. I'm comfortable doing it like this, where I put it on all of my fingers, put my thumb right here on this groove. Then my pointer finger kind of pushes on the hook like this, and I just feel like I have more control when I'm working with yarn like that. I've seen some people hold it like this, where it's facing the other way, and they do that. I've seen people do this. There are just so many ways. Right now you could just start by picking up your hook, move it around, decide which way feels most comfortable. Maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. It really doesn't matter, just whatever helps you crochet the best. So there are also many different ways to hold your yarn. I do it like this. I wrap it over my pinky, around, and then over these two fingers, and I just kind of hold it like that. Let me show you again. Around and just over, and then I hold the work with my pointer finger and thumb. So then I just wrap around, hold the work, and pull through, and that's just how I do all of my work. Some people like to have their pointer finger holding the yarn up here. You can just do that same intro part, just add your pointer finger, and then they just grab the yarn like that. I have seen someone hold the crochet hook and yarn on the same hand. I have no idea how they did it, but if that works for you, you can figure it out that way as well. That's just what's comfortable for me, and you can definitely try that if you'd like. So just kind of play around with the yarn, wrap it around different ways, hold it up different ways. It really doesn't matter, it's just whatever is comfortable for you. You're going to take that end piece of the yarn, wrap it around your finger like this, so you have a loop. Take that loop and twist it back over itself, like that, and you see that little line right there? I take my crochet hook right there, pull that up, and then there's your slip stitch. Okay, and then from there we're going to start chaining. So for this one we're just going to chain, let's do 11. Take the yarn from this side, wrap it around the back and over. Twist your crochet hook so that it grabs onto that yarn and pull it through that loop right there. See that? That's your first chain. Now you're just going to keep doing that 2, and you just keep doing that until you have 11. That's 11 stitches. Now to start a single crochet stitch, you are going to start working in the second chain from the hook. Right next to your hook right there, that's your first chain. You're going to be working in this second chain right here. Now what I like to do is I like to work on these back loops so that the end has a nice smooth chain look. You can just work through the top loop that shows right here. That is definitely easier as you start. So I'll show you both ways. So for this way, you go into that second chain and you just go through that top loop. And that yarn comes around the top. You hook onto it, pull that through. So then you have 2 loops on your hook right here. And then you wrap around the back and then twist your hook and pull it through both loops. Just like that. That's your first single crochet stitch. Let me just show you that again. You go into that next chain right here, go through that top loop, pull the yarn through. So you have 2 loops on your hook. Wrap the yarn back and around, twist your hook and pull through both of those loops. And there's your second one. Now let me show you how to do on the back loop. So you can choose which one you'd rather do. Either one is totally fine. So I'm going to go into that next chain, but twist it forward a little. So then I see this back loop right here. I'm going to put that hook through that back loop. You can just take your nail and pull it over if that makes it easier. Wrap that yarn around and pull it through. So then you have 2 loops on your hook. And then wrap around and pull through both of those loops. The nice thing about this is once you start working in the back, it kind of all lays like that, so you can just see all the back loops as you go. Let's do that again. Go through that back loop, wrap around, pull through that one, and then pull through both. We have 4 now, and we're just going to go all the way to the end. And since we chained 11 and we skipped that first chain, then we're going to have 10 single crochets at the end of this row. So in order to count, you look at the top and you see those little chain looking pieces. That is each stitch. You count that first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 right there at the end. So now that we have that, we're going to chain 1 at the end of this row. So you just do that wrap around, twist your hook, pull through that chain, and then you twist the whole project over. Now to start this next row, you see this first little hole right here. That is your first single crochet that we're going to work into. And you just see them all the way across. So we're going to put our hook into that hole through both of these loops that show on top, the ones that we counted earlier. It's going to go through both of those. Then you pull yarn through, so then you have those 2 loops on your hook. Wrap the yarn around, twist, pull through both. See that? We're just going to do that again, go into that next hole. So then both of those little loops are on top of the hook. Pull that yarn through, wrap around, and pull through both. And we're just going to do that all the way across this row, and I'll come back once I get to the end to show you where to place that last stitch. I am at the end right before we make our last single crochet for this row, and if you just count real quick, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 single crochet. So then we know that we still need 1 more. And right at the end here, the single crochet looks a little different than the others. It might be kind of harder to put your hook into. Sometimes you need to kind of pull that first loop on and then pull that second loop on, depending on the tension that you used. So let me show you that again. You've got those 2 loops right there, and you just want to put your hook through both of those loops. Now we wrap that yarn around and do that last single crochet stitch. There is 2 rows. All right, then we do that chain 1, go into that first hole for that single crochet, and then go all the way to the end. And then if you want to double check, you just count those stitches again, and there's 10. So we're just going to keep doing rows. For this little project, we're just going to make a little square, and I'll come back when that's done. All right, I finished that little square of single crochet rows. Now that we're at the end, let me show you how to count how many rows you have. At this bottom here, before these little holes, that is that first row of single crochet that we did into the chains. If you flip it over, I'll show you how it looks on this side. Right here, see those little loops? That's where that top of the single crochet is. And these holes is where that next row was worked into. So you just count right on those loops for that first row. And then you go to that next row in between those little holes. That's row 2. Go in between the next little holes. That's row 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So for this one, I did 11 rows, depending on the tension that you have when you're crocheting. Some people crochet a little looser, some people make it a little tighter. You might need to change the amount of rows that you do. That's totally fine. Do it until you think it looks good. So I just made this little square, which could be like a little cup holder or something, a coaster. It's just a cute little simple project. So at the very end, once you're done with that last row, you wrap that yarn around, make a chain, keep your hook in there, and then cut the yarn, cut it about maybe 6 inches, so then you have some yarn left over that you can sew in, and then you just pull. Pull that a little. I like to kind of pull the edge just a little so that it blends in with the whole project. So then you've got that little string. All right, now I forgot to mention at the beginning that you do need one of these little needles that you use to sew in the ends. It's got kind of a smoother rounded top. You can get these in little packages for pretty cheap. You can also get plastic ones, which are fine, but I like these metal ones better because it's smoother and goes through smoother. And they're a little thinner, so it's easier to go through the stitches. Let's take this first end that we have at the beginning of the project. I like to roll it around a little in my fingers so that it's easier to put through, because the ends do tend to get a little frayed. And then you just kind of squeeze that through the eye of that needle. Pull that yarn up. And it's totally fine if you need to like wet the ends a little bit. I do that sometimes. It just makes it easier to pull it through. Put it through these little top loops in the project so that it doesn't go through to the other side. You're just kind of putting it through half of the stitches that you made. Once I get through a few stitches, I like to pull that through, and I go in a few directions just to make sure that it is really secure. So you go through these ones up a little bit, and then back over. There you go. That is secure, and then you just cut right to the end of it. Make sure you don't cut any of your stitches that you made. So just be very careful where you're cutting. Snip that off. If there's a little left over, that's fine. You just kind of rub it in, push it in a little. You can take your hook and push it in too. There's that. All sewn in, you can't even see it. Let's do the other side. This side I made a little longer, so it'll be a little easier to sew in. Just through these top loops. Pull that through, go another direction. One more time. There you go. All right, and there's that little square. The ends tend to like fold up a little bit, that's fine. You can kind of put something heavy on it and weigh it down, or you can wet it a little and just shape it how you want, let it dry, just kind of work with it. But there you go. And there you have it. You now know how to make a simple coaster with the single crochet stitch. You can actually start this with more chains or increase the rows, make a bigger square. You can make a hot pad, washcloth. There really are so many possibilities. Let me know in the comments below how you did and what you want to learn next. Don't forget to subscribe and happy crocheting!